Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I am so excited today to be joined by Aida Rodriguez, writer, comedian, and oh my gosh, you have seen her everywhere. Netflix, HBO specials, you're still writing more projects to come out. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Yeah, and of course, we have to get into your book. I mean, I want to go at the beginning before we get to that, just so we can lay some foundation.
Okay.
And so, I'm from the East Coast. Went to school up in New York, Spanish Harlem and things like that. So it's a culture I feel very, very close to. Talk to us about sort of that journey of discovering some of your heritage by trying to meet your father.
So I grew up Puerto Rican. My mother's Puerto Rican. I am, Puerto Rican. But I didn't grow up with my Dominican side of the family, and it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I discovered that I was part Dominican. And there was always, something always felt like it was missing, because culturally I would identify with a lot of Dominican things.
Right.
And it was, I don't know if it was subconscious. I don't know if it's nature versus nurture.
Sure.
You'll have to answer that, you're the doctor. But my mom would say I danced like Dominicans, I love Dominican food. And when I got old enough, I wanted to know more about it. And I wanted to know more about me. And my grandmother went to the Dominican Republic. My maternal grandmother went to the Dominican Republic and made it a mission to find my biological father for me.
Interesting. And then what set you on that journey to sort of write a book about that? Because sometimes people would say, that's very personal. I'm not going to go there. And then, of course, we've got to get to the title of your book, which is Legitimate Kid.
Well, yes, especially when you grow up in marginalized communities where what happens at home stays at home.
Right.
We've been indoctrinated to not speak about the things that happen. But I'm a stand-up comedian. I naturally talk about those things. I really feel it's important to talk about things that hold us in bondage for a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like abuse continues when you don't talk about it and you don't tell, And that whole snitch phenomenon within our own culture has been very toxic for us. So I made a decision that, I was going to tell the story, but it wasn't going to be with the purpose of setting people on fire, like being salacious and, like my mama did this, my daddy. Like I feel like anytime you make somebody the culprit in your story, you make yourself the victim. And I didn't want to be the victim. I wanted to tell my story and my journey, and hopefully I would be able to inspire other people to find some sort of forgiveness in their lives, because I felt like forgiveness has been the greatest form of self-care for me. But when I met my father, I thought I was going to get all the answers, right? Because I was like, this is the moment. I'm going to get all the answers.
And the cameras are rolling.
And the cameras were rolling. And all I discovered was that I had more questions, a lot more questions. And I wanted to start to explore those honestly, which is what I've been doing since I met my father. And I wanted just to talk about that wound, because somebody called me a bastard when I was a little girl, one of my classmates, and it traumatized me. It stayed with me for a long time. I wanted to go and figure out what that meant, and why, and it made me feel so bad that I was like, how do I fix this? Like, where do I find the healing in this? And so I set out on the journey to really understand what legitimacy was about, the legal term, where it came from. Richard Pryor is my hero, so it's somewhere in there as well, because he grew up in a brothel, you know. And so I just said, I'm gonna find my own legitimacy and not let it be a political, a social, or that type of statement, that it was gonna be something that came from within.
Sure. How did comedy sort of become that field or that answer to which you felt like, this is what I was born to do?
Well, comedy is a very interesting space, because a lot of damaged people do stand up. And I feel like everybody's damaged in some way, right?
We are.
But comedy is where we go to really explore the damage and confront it. And when I started doing it, I started doing it as a hobby. I didn't really think I was gonna do anything beyond just some open mics, but it just started to create a path for me on its own without me doing any of the work. And when I started talking to people after my shows that were saying thank you for speaking about this or saying this, I felt seen. I feel like, you gave me a perspective on something. Also seeing a lot of women, young women of color, saying, I've never seen you before, I've been looking for you, It just became part of the healing for me.
Sure. You're so much of a heroine, I think, more than you may realize. And I don't know if you looked at some of the kind of comments that people put down on some of the posts and videos that go up. And some of them have said that we need her to do her own late night show because we need to see more of us, and she represents such a pioneer in that. How do you respond to such love and adoration?
Of course, I respond to it, I appreciate it. It's really hard for it to land sometimes because I'm still doing the work.
Right.
I appreciate it. I used to say that I wanted to do late night and I wanted to be, one of the women that got to do the late night scene. But it's been overwhelming, the response that I've received from people. I think they make fun of me in comedy because I always have people in these two categories of celebrity. It's like the Michael Jackson celebrity and the Muhammad Ali celebrity. Because Michael Jackson ran from the people and Muhammad ran with them, And so for me, it's always been about how do I marry my art with service, and how is what I'm doing gonna service the generations to come and my community and my people. And so I just sit sometimes and think what can I do? What storytelling am I gonna do this time? And how is it gonna go out into the world and help people improve their lives? My book is not just about sales for me. My book is going into the prison systems to women in prison. It's going into homeless shelters for women who are unhoused, to give them a story of somebody who's been exactly where they are. For me, it's just about how does my art, marry my mission. And I actually met Muhammad Ali and I spent an afternoon with him. And he told me that what my name meant, because my name is a Ethiopian, it's a Northern African name. And he was like, you have a mission. He was like, Aida is an Ethiopian name. Aida was a queen, and you have work to do, and it's not going to be easy for you. He's like, it's going to be like me, He's like, you're going to have to fight every step of the way, but at the end of the day, your mission is going to be bigger than that of just another actress or celebrity. And I'm thankful for that moment because it was validated by my hero,
Sure. Absolutely. You've been very vocal about supporting and promoting a lot of the women who also help support you. Wanda Sykes, Tiffany Haddish. Talk to us about just how important that is that we continue to lift each other up and really not get into the cattiness or the cancel culture.
We gotta stop being haters. They indoctrinate us to do that because it keeps us down. Because there's power in numbers, and I think that everybody has their own journey here, and the journeys don't look alike. And Wanda Sykes is the first person to put me on television. Actually, a woman named Monica Boyd was the first woman, a black woman, to put me on television to do stand-up. Wanda Sykes put me on broadcast TV on NBC. I think it's important for us we gotta gather ourselves and work on our self-esteem, because when we feel good about ourselves, we don't feel threatened about uplifting others. And I think specifically with women of color, there's always this seasoning of avarice and jealousy that's sprinkled upon us to keep us divided. And it's dark-skinned women, light-skinned women, Latinas versus Black American women. It's always this thing about, it's by design. Because if we really had power, we could really make change, right? And so for me, it's like, Tiffany put me on Netflix and made them pay me like a white man. And that's what she said, pay her like a white man, like you pay one of these white boys in comedy. How could I not speak her name?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Wanda Sykes, how could I not speak her name? Monica, Tamara Goins, and Valerie. So I just think it's important to speak, and I'm a village person, you know. I was brought up that way. My grandmother brought us up that way. We were a village, and everybody played a part, and we all take care of each other, and we listened to the lady down the street because that's how we were raised. We would not tell the lady down the street, "You're not my mama." Like that was not part of the. That would have consequences, because my grandmother would take me over there and be like, "Say it again," you know, like. So I grew up like that. And so I struggle in this business because I get around these people and I'm like, oh, y'all really goofy. Like, you really think that you can have what somebody else is. It's not, you don't believe in the Most High. Like, you don't know what's yours. But for me, I'm not going to ever change, because to me, I feel like all my blessings come because I remain connected to what's bigger than Hollywood and bigger than the industry. Is what feeds me is not an executive or a network. So I think it's important to uplift one another.
Sure. You hinted at it. You've come through some very complicated challenges and overcome them. What do you think were some of those key ingredients that helped you to deal with adversity?
My grandmother's faith, above all things. You know, I talked to some people who call themselves atheists, you know, or science people. And I always feel like, and not all of them, I'm talking about some of the people I know, there's this missing component of joy. And, you know, it's just contentment. It's easier to say, you know, there's nothing bigger than us because bad things happen in the world. And there is this idea that if there was a God, then why is this happening? But I think that listening to my grandmother pray. Now, my grandmother was an illiterate woman who knew the whole Bible, right? And her husband read it to her enough that she memorized it. And, you know, I don't know that I wholeheartedly believe all of the doctrine, you know, all of the technical, structural stuff about religion, because I know it is used to control people, and you know, it's for a lot of stuff, bad stuff has happened in the name of religion. But I know that spiritually, what I'm connected to, source, what the Most High is what I call my God. There's no way I could ever exist on this planet and have joy and understanding that there's something bigger than this, that when we die, we don't die, we graduate. You know, when there's something bigger than this, it keeps me going, and I don't have to ever worry about these goofy ass people in the industry that try to wield their power over you, because they don't factor into the great equation that is what's bigger than this, you know. And for me, that's always been what keeps me going, and it keeps me fed, and it keeps me I know that I remember the turning point in my life when I was suicidal and I was very depressed. And I was rich, you know, I was married to a professional athlete. I had everything that I wanted, and I was miserable. I wanted to drive off a cliff. And I just remember that what changed in me had nothing to do with material, physical circumstances. I sat with therapists, which I believe in therapy, but it was a spiritual shift, paradigm shift within me when I allowed myself to just receive what was bigger than me. Where my life started to change, and my attitude about life started to change. And I was like, you know what, things are gonna happen. Balance is, there's good and there's bad. That's balance, that's life. Everybody gets a dose of all of it. And you gotta stay happy and joyful, because it's gonna come in the morning, right? And so I just started to focus on my spiritual health, and then my mental, and then my physical, you know, and then everything else came from there.
Sure. And do you feel that you were really able to maybe get to that place of acceptance and self-love that so many times maybe some of our past or our parents or issues that we heard about or experienced limit?
Yeah, you know, acceptance is probably the most, self-love is, Self-love is a lot of people speak about self-love as being the ultimate, but I think how many of us have loved people that are not good for us, right? Including ourselves, right? You can love, you've loved the wrong person, you've loved the wrong family member, you just can love, but accepting who you are and understanding, you know, like, I look at some of the women that are my counterparts in this business, and you know, they are going through all the motions trying to figure out how they can look younger. Right. And I'm like, there ain't nothing you gonna do that's gonna make you look, when you walk in the room, ain't nobody gonna say, damn, you think she's 25? Right. Like, it's just not gonna happen, because it's not possible. But being able to accept the fact that you are a grown woman that's seasoned, and you have had a lived experience that makes you magic, and that anybody who cannot appreciate that is not worthy of you is probably one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, because the truth is getting older is the ultimate blessing, because what's the option? To get dead, right? Exactly. Right. So I think that, like, being able to accept who you are. I modeled for many years, and I had a very bad eating disorder, because they kept trying to get me to be thin. Right. And I got down. Zero. Yeah, but I got down to 117 pounds, and I'm 5'11". And they said, can you get down to 100? And I realized that there was nothing I'm gonna ever do. I can be 100 pounds, I'm gonna be a skeleton with hips.
Nor is it safe.
Right, because I'm a Puerto Rican, Dominican woman, and I'm curvy. That's just who I am. There was nothing I could do about it. And the day that I accepted the fact that I was gonna be a curvy woman, and that's just who I am, was one of the greatest days of my life, because I was like, why am I, they starting to pay for this? Like, you know, like they trying to, I'm dying to look like a skeleton, and they're paying to look like me. What is wrong with you? Like, but the acceptance was the freedom, you know, because the love can still be denial, but acceptance, being able to say, this is who I am, and now I'm gonna improve upon that, is just, that's power, you know?
Sure. I wanted to lay that foundation to really get into some of your writing and your current projects. Okay. Talk to us about some of the things that you can, that are sort of coming down the pike, because I know you're doing big things.
Well, you know, they're not big things till they happen. Right. They're just all ideas. You know, I am gonna write another book, because I have been approached about writing another book. And I want to continue to write books, because I want to do novels. There's just a world of books that live within me that I want to share. I'm actually in development on two TV shows that are based on my life, and I have some really great partners that I'm working with to seeing those visions come to life. I'm getting ready to start touring again at the beginning of the year, and you know, I directed some specials for HBO, which were fascinating, because I was able to direct other comedians that I like and that I wanted to share with the world, and you know, properly light dark-skinned Black people, because that was one of the things that I was like, y'all don't see this. Like, it was that little thing was such a big thing, and you know, my own films, like, you know, I've made films before. And I'm gonna shoot some films in the next couple of months. I have 3 short films that I'm producing and that I'm acting in. And I actually booked a movie where I'm leading, which is my first leading role, that I get to go back to Puerto Rico to shoot. So I'm very excited about that.
Amazing, amazing. I wanted to talk a little bit about just this journey. It's been so incredible. What are those sort of pearls that you would give to some young writer? We'll pick on that part, because you've been writing all of your life, writing the comedy, writing screenplays and things like that, that's starting out, but also encountering some of the negativity and the challenges of actually making it in this business.
Writing is a muscle, right? It's an exercise. It's like if you want quads, you gotta do squats, right? You want glutes, you gotta do squats. Writing is a muscle, and you have to exercise it. A lot of people love to say that they're writers, and a lot of people are writers, but I'm a completer. Like, I like to finish what I start. And I would always say to young writers is, tell your stories. Don't tell the story, right? Get it out first before you take it to anybody else, because people will try to talk you out of your story, because it doesn't match what their idea is of what a story should be, right? And so get your story out, write it, I write every day, and I have a notebook with me that I carry with me. I would say, write every day, write and exercise the muscle. But I always tell young artists, go as you, because you are going to eventually show up anyway. There's a reason why you are this, this print on the planet that is unique, and there's nothing like you. So that is what you have to offer that no one else has to offer. So why would you waste your time trying to be like somebody else? There's something unique and specific about you that makes you magic, and that is what you bring to the table.
Sure, absolutely. In addition to your children, what brings you happiness and joy?
What made you think my children brought me happiness and joy? My family brings me lots of joy. Watching my mother, seeing my mom happy makes me happy. My father giving me the blessing, bendición, mija, que Dios te bendiga, like that makes me happy. Seeing my friends win makes me happy. I like being in a winner's circle. I don't want to be the only winner amongst a bunch of people to make me feel better. That's corny. Music makes me happy. I listen to music every day. That's how I start my day. Like, I listen to compa. That's my favorite kind of music, salsa. Like, I listen to a lot of island, Caribbean music, African music. But the things that make me happy are very simple. Sitting around a table with home-cooked food with my people is cracking jokes. There's nothing like that. That's better than going to a movie premiere with holding in, your stomach, taking pictures with a bunch of people who could care less about you. And when you're not winning no more, they don't ever want to see you again. Right. I like family.
Sure. Obviously, one of the things we love about you is your honesty and the fact that you're so introspective, you're so much insight about it. So since you brought up kids, let's talk about the fact that you're just keeping it real about the pros and cons of whatever it may be, trying to look a certain way in the industry, trying to always say that your kids are perfect. Just talk to us about sort of that, keeping it real.
You know what that does is harm when celebrities and entertainers project these fake lives of perfection, and this whole idea of what life should be, it's sprinkled upon these impressionable minds who are suffering right now because they're being constantly stimulated by messaging that's everywhere. They have commercials at the gas station. I think it's important to be responsible with information if you have it. If you're a biblical person, the Bible says, buy the truth and don't sell it. Like me, I think it's just important to be real. Mothers that are suffering from postpartum syndrome, who are having a hard time with their kids. You got these fake people on TV saying, my Billy is we just communicate. Sometimes your communication is get out my face, go to the room, leave me alone, shut up. It's normal. We're not perfect. And so I think that this projection of what things should be for everybody, because everybody is different, is harmful and it's toxic. And it's created a lot of mental health imbalance in this country and in the world, that people think I'm not a good mother because I'm depressed because I just had a baby, when there are, there's a science to this. Right. There are psychological, physiological, and physical changes that happen in a woman's body after she has a baby, and everybody not going to be happy-go-lucky, and it's okay, though. That the part that they don't say is it's okay. So I think it's important to be honest, and it's important to explore the other side of an argument. We are so caught up in our own point of view that we limit ourselves from learning when we're unwilling to explore what other people are thinking and why. Naturally, I don't agree with people who are these, extreme conservative MAGA people or whatever that want to monitor the lives of queer and people of color. But understanding why they're that way, it allows me to see that, they are suffering more than I am because they don't even know that they're suffering, right? Their racism and bigotry is driving their cars so deep off the far end that they can't even realize that they're biting their noses to spite their face, because they're the ones also who are struggling with no health care. The schools in their districts are bad. The sheriffs don't care about them either because they're poor. So it's just really being able to explore those things, not because I want to pander to them, right? But understanding them allows me not to hate them and pity them. And that's a lot less energy for me than to be like, I can't stand these people. And I'm like, why would I care what this person has to say? They don't have access to the things in life to make their life better. They don't like me because of my ethnicity or my race or whatever, but they struggling. And like, why am I, like, you got to consider the source, but you got to understand the source before, because if not, you're just the other side of that, like, and to me, my intelligence won't allow me to, my natural intelligence, not that I'm more intellectual than anybody else, but my natural intelligence tells me that's wrong, that's not the healthy place to be. So I just, I operate from understanding that, everybody has a way of thinking, and it is shaped by the experiences in their own lives. And I'm fascinated with understanding what that looks like.
Yeah. On that note, I love your message about haters. What's the best way to tell somebody who may be caught up in what they're seeing on their DMs or on social media and things like that to handle it? Maybe young and still fragile in the industry, young just in terms of their experience or what they've accomplished when it comes to that.
What you say to those people is, I'm so sorry you feel so bad. Right. Is there anything I can do to help you? Not that you have to. Right. Nobody who feels good about themselves, nobody that I know that truly feels good about themselves has an ounce of time to dedicate to making somebody else feel bad. Right. It's the most miserable of the miserable people. Like, anybody that I know that is joyful and it's healthy and it's winning and is doing great things in life, anyone that I know like that does not want anything other than other people to feel that way. So I always, when I get messages from people that have, like, when I get somebody told me they wish that I died. One woman said she prayed for my downfall, and I went through her page and I was like, girl, you got so many more things you should be praying for. My downfall? Like, I shouldn't be on the list. Like, you need to pray for a better hairstylist. You need to pray for some water. Like, and then I realized I'm being just as petty as she is. But sure. I just feel like people who feel good about themselves, they're not on the internet telling other people that they're ugly. Right. I don't like country music. Mm-hmm. I'll hear a song here and there, but I'm not a real big country music fan. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to Dwight Yoakam's page and saying, this is trash. Right. Like, I have what am I doing that for? Mm-hmm. I just don't listen to country music. So anybody who takes that extra amount of time and goes that extra mile to poke at somebody, they need attention, they're miserable, they feel bad about themselves, and they're alone. Because if you popping,
right, you don't have time.
You don't have time for that.
Yeah. Shameless plug. Let's talk a little bit about your kids' projects and what they're up to.
Oh, nice. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. So my daughter wrote an episode of Doom Patrol, which is on HBO Max, and it is streaming now on Max. It's called Max now. She's currently developing another TV show and working on another TV show in the writer's room. And my son is a special effects editor who works on shows like Ted Lasso and Manifest. And he just directed his first, not his first, like maybe his 10th short film, but this film is like doing the film festival circuits. So they're both, he's a writer-director, she's a writer, and they're both doing really well. Thank you for asking.
No, absolutely. How does it feel, sort of almost seeing full circle? You started writing, and here, they're very involved.
I feel like they lapped me. I'm like, I'm looking back now, they are running off. I need a job, I feel very proud. I'm very happy for them. I'm everything I am because of them. They are my greatest teachers. They've been my best friends. They're amazing human beings. And I couldn't be prouder of anything I've ever done in life than to be by their side and watch them evolve into becoming great human beings. So I'm very happy for them.
Sure. Probably last topic, but certainly one that will go on and on, relationships. Probably one of the biggest challenges that we face, and kind of hinted at it all along, getting along with each other, finding that perfect person, things like that. What recommendations would you give to people who really may be working just a little bit too hard to force a relationship to fit or to occur?
So You know, it's interesting because I've been single for a year now. I was in a long-term relationship with someone that I was in a domestic partnership. And when I got out of that relationship, I had a long list of everything that was wrong with him, you know, and why our relationship didn't work. We were always trying to make things fit. It didn't fit, you know, he's this, he's that. I would say maybe a few months into me getting through that anger and that rage, me stepping away from that situation, I started to create my list of me and the things that I didn't, that where I was falling short, what I wasn't bringing to the table. And I think it was there when I was like, you have to be what you want. And I remember my herbalist told me that. My herbalist, Tahuti.
Wise psychologist.
Tahuti Matra said to me, you have to be what you want. And I started focusing on that. And it humanized the person that I was with, that even if we were not ideal for one another, it wasn't just that he was a bad person. It was that we were just both, our illnesses and toxicity were just at a height that we were just radioactive together. And so what I will say to people is focus on being what you want. I have friends who are always talking about how they want to date a man that looks a certain way, has this amount of money, he gotta have a six-pack, his credit, and then she not out of shape, struggling, her credit score bad, you know, like I'm like, how you want somebody to show, you looking for somebody to rescue you, you're not looking for a partnership, right? And so I was like, I'm taking myself out the game and I'm gonna focus on being what I want. And I started doing a trauma program with a therapist. And, you know, I've never had, and this is not arrogance, but I've never been a woman to ever be like, oh my God, you know, I'm not gonna find a man. Like how is, you know, that's never been my thing. My thing has always been like, oh my God, I'm not gonna find a job. That's always been the bigger deal for me. But I think having a man was emphasized so much in my family and in my culture that I went the other way, where I was like, I need to be a whole person. That whole you complete me is dysfunctional. It's like if you need somebody to complete you, then that means you ain't a whole person by yourself, and that's not healthy. But I would say for people, you know, my young girls who are always being told you have to find a man with money, you know, a lot of women are pushed into being gold diggers because people around them don't believe they can be excellent and go get it themselves. And that's really the bigger syndrome of trying to find somebody who has a lot of money is usually because you don't think you yourself have the ability to do it. Because if he's a football player, he's a basketball player, but I have a friend who's an engineer. She is richer than most of the football players that we went to school with. She is one of the highest women. She's an engineer, like in a certain corporate company, and she makes more money than 80% of the football players that we went to school with. And not that money is everything, but she's just as successful. She's in the same tax bracket. So I would just encourage people when you see that list, you have that list of what you're looking for in a partner, check it out for yourself. Are you healthy? Do you work out, right? Do you have good credit? You know, like, do you cook at home? You know, do you have a good family relationship? I think that's what I would tell people in the relationship realm. I'm the happiest I've ever been right now, and I am not in a relationship. So for me, I always felt like I was miserable, and I was with somebody who adored me, but I didn't love myself enough to be able to receive that adoration. So I think it's important to be what you want.
Sure. Bringing it full circle, do you feel that, and wrapping up with the book, really helped you to come to a place of acceptance with some of the issues that we all have as parents and that you may have experienced as you met and really got to learn more about your parents? Yeah,
you know what? Forgiveness was the greatest gift of them all, the best form of self-care. I read this book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Yes. And she has an exercise in the book where it tells you to think about your parents when they were children. And that made me cry so much with my mom, because I was like, I never ever humanized my mother in the way. She's always just been my mother. Right. But when I thought about my mother at 9 years old, you know, my mom had a lot of horrible things happen to her. I was like, yo, she's just a person. And she didn't go past 6th grade. Like, for me to sit here and say, how could you not do better? Expecting her to provide the parenting that someone with a degree would have in psychology, basically. Not just a degree, but right, somebody was skills. Right, you know, and I'm like, I've expected her so much from her. And she has 4 children that are all my 2 brothers and my sister are productive, good human beings that have done so well in life. She's never dealt with addiction with her kids. She's never dealt with any of the stuff. She has 4 amazing human children. And I'm like, she did all of that without a 6th grade, you know, a formal education. Just humanizing them. That's why I forgave my dad. I was like, I can't be mad at this man. This man got trauma. Like, I look at him and he got kids all over the place, right, trying to find himself. He was dating a girl that was 35. I was like, she's trying to get your check. Like, what's wrong with you? But it was being able to humanize them and allowing them to just be people is the greatest thing I ever did. There's a lot of TikToks that will tell you you don't have to forgive your parents. You don't have to give them grace. If they did this to you, forgiveness does not mean, it has nothing to do with proximity. You can forgive somebody and never speak to them again. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person. We give it away like it's a gift. Forgiveness is self-care. When you are able to release that stuff, you move on. And you don't ever have to speak to the person again. But for me, forgiving my parents was the best thing, because now I talk to both of them. They're my dogs. Like, I have the best relationship with them. And my siblings are still, my brother still walking around talking about what happened to him when he was 8. Right. And I was like, bro, you in your 40s, you need to go on a diet. Don't blame mommy for this. This is you. So I think it's important to forgive.
Sure. Well, we so appreciate you not only keeping it real, but all that you've done and your willingness to also share that very vulnerable side and make it more public and something that we get more comfortable talking about, but also just being a voice for our stories, which many times can get lost in the midst. Continue to motivate. We continue to really pray for your success and just admire all that you've done. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Sure, appreciate it. I feel like I was in a therapy session.